Good afternoon. Turning to the situation in Gaza, our colleagues from the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs say that they helped evacuate civilians on Monday from Al-Amal Hospital in Khan Yunis, which is, as you know, in southern Gaza, amid intense military operations there. OCHA, together with the Palestinian Red Crescent Society and the International Committee for the Red Cross, moved out 6 patients and a companion, more than 24 staff, and the bodies of 2 people killed inside the hospital. As of yesterday, Al-Amal Hospital had ceased to function. According to the World Health Organization, 2/3 of Gaza's 36 hospitals are now non-functional. 2 are minimally functional and 10 are partially functional, 4 in the north and 6 in the south. OCHA's head of the Office for the Occupied Palestinian Territory, Andrea De Domenico, was able to visit one of the 4 partially functioning hospitals in northern Gaza, which was the Kamal Adwan Hospital, and he was able to do that visit last week. He said the hospital is receiving about 15 malnourished children a day and is struggling to maintain services. The hospital's only generator has been heavily damaged, and health workers and patients desperately need food, water, and sanitation assistance. According to the World Food Program, roughly 70% of the population in northern Gaza is facing catastrophic hunger. However, efforts to deliver life-saving assistance to the north have been impeded by access constraints and the ongoing fighting. This month, the World Food Program was only able to send 11 convoys to the north, bringing food to some 74,000 people. Given the colossal needs, daily deliveries will be needed to halt famine. And Philippe Lazzarini, the Commissioner General of UNRWA, thanked Germany today for its contribution of 45 million euros for UNRWA's activities in Jordan, in Lebanon, Syria, and the West Bank. He said on social media, with these new contributions, Germany is now among UNRWA's top donors. He added that the solidarity of Germany is a proof of the commitment to supporting Palestine refugees in their right to a dignified life. And turning to Syria, the UN's humanitarian coordinator for Syria, Adam Abdelmullah, deplored in a statement yesterday the killing of a humanitarian staff member in Deir ez-Zor city, which is, you know, in the northeast of Syria, and that came as a result of ongoing hostilities. On Tuesday, a colleague from the World Health Organization was killed when his building was among those hit by multiple airstrikes across Deir ez-Zor governorate. Several other civilians were also reportedly killed in the attack, according to what local sources are telling us. Mr. Abdelmullah said this attack is a reminder of the daily continued danger and devastation that civilians are facing in Syria as the crisis has now entered its 14th year. He called on all parties to the conflict to take constant care to spare civilian population and civilian objects in their military operations. And of course, that would be in accordance with international humanitarian law. Turning to Somalia, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tells us they are worried about the spread of cholera and acute watery diarrhea in the country. As of a week ago, nearly 4,400 cases and 54 deaths have been recorded in nearly half of all districts in Somalia. That's since the start of 2024. Over 60% of the deaths are reportedly children under 5 years old. The World Health Organization said the number of reported cases in Somalia this year is 3 times higher than the previous 3-year average. Somalia is already among the countries with most severely impacted by cholera and acute watery diarrhea. We, along with our humanitarian partners, are working with Somalia's health authorities to step up preparations and response efforts in line with a 6-month plan of action that will require nearly $6 million. There are severe shortages in the number of available oral cholera vaccine doses. Aid organizations are pre-positioning those treatment kits and working on surveillance and case management. However, we urgently need additional funding. This year's humanitarian appeal for Somalia is only 10% funded. So we have about 150 million out of the required $1.6 billion that are needed. Just want to flag another funding shortage with impact on the humanitarian situation. The World Food Program, UNHCR, are warning today that the vital food assistance to refugees in Cameroon's far north Adamawa and East and North regions is at risk of grinding to a halt due to funding shortfalls. Most refugee families there rely on WFP food assistance to survive. However, funding shortfalls have already forced the agency to cut rations and to distribute incomplete food baskets since the end of last year. WFP needs $23.1 million to assist over 222,000 refugees from Nigeria and the Central African Republic who are currently being hosted in Cameroon, funding that will ensure that life-saving humanitarian assistance can continue until the end of the year. As of December of 2023, 4.7 million people in Cameroon needed humanitarian assistance. The humanitarian response plan this year requires $371.4 million. It is only 5% funded. And a rather eye-opening report from our friends at the UN Environment Program. They launched the UN Food Waste Index report, which has some alarming figures. The report said households across all continents wasted over 1 billion meals in 2022, while 783 million people were affected by hunger, and a third of humanity faces food insecurity. Food waste also continues to hurt the global economy and fuel climate change, nature loss, and pollution. The report was launched ahead of the International Day of Zero Waste, which is this Saturday. And in his message to mark the day, the Secretary General says that our planet is drowning under a torrent of trash, with humanity producing more than 2 billion tons of municipal solid waste every year. He adds that overconsumption is killing us, and he calls on businesses, governments, and all of us, frankly, as consumers, to end the destructive cycle of waste. Senior personnel appointment. Today, the Secretary General appointed Kamal Kishore of India as Assistant Secretary General and Special Representative of the Secretary General for Disaster Risk Reduction. He succeeds Mami Mizutori of Japan, to whom the Secretary General is grateful for her services and commitment. The Secretary General also extends his appreciation to the Director of the office, Paula Albrito, who will continue to serve as acting special representative until Mr. Kishore assumes his position. Mr. Kishore is currently head of department at the National Disaster Management Authority with the rank of Secretary to the Government of India. He brings to the position nearly 3 decades of experience in disaster risk reduction, climate action, and sustainable development at the global, regional, national, and local levels. Want to flag a new exhibit that is opening today, which is called, which focuses on Rwanda's post-genocide reconciliation. The exhibit is called Remember, Unite, Renew. At the heart of the exhibit is the story of Laurence, who fled the killings led by her then neighbors in Rwanda. She then started a reconciliation process with one of the killers of her family, Xavier. The exhibit coincides with the 30th anniversary of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsis in Rwanda, which is marked on April 7th. The exhibit was organized by the Department of Global Communications with collaboration of the UN system in Rwanda, the Office of the Special Advisor on Genocide Prevention, the Government of Rwanda, and the Prison Fellowship of Rwanda, and the Aegis Trust. Financial contribution, the quizzes. Interesting fact. While hunting for interesting facts, we discovered that motorbikes are not just popular, they are the lifeblood in the streets of this nation. With a population of about 100 million people, the bike population is 58 million. That's a big ratio. An estimated 86% of households in this country owns either a motorbike or a scooter. 73% of the country's citizens rely on motorbikes for transport. In major cities, bikes make up to 90% of vehicles on the roads. Yes, who said Vietnam first? Bravo. 93 member states. We thank our friends in Hanoi, but given that it's Edie's birthday today, you get the first question. Amélie, you'll get it tomorrow. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Steph. And I remember on my first visit to Vietnam, everybody was riding motorbikes and bikes, and there were almost no cars on the road.
Well, I just want to
That
see a
was
picture of
19
you on the back of a motorbike, Edie.
Oh, I have one. But that was 1971, a long time ago. A question: can you tell us what the Secretary General is doing to try and push for the compliance with the resolution adopted by the Security Council demanding a ceasefire during Ramadan, which now has only until April 9th, I believe?
Well, frankly, the Secretary General has been calling for a humanitarian ceasefire for longer than the resolution was adopted just a few days ago. That has been his message for the past months. He continues to call for it. His representatives and officials continue to pass on that message, but it is obviously those who are doing the fighting and those who have an influence over those who are doing the fighting to push for the implementation of the resolution. Benny, Avni.
Sorry, I'm not in. There are reports today that I saw from southern Gaza that after the Ministry of Economy of Hamas removed its people from the Rafah border crossing on the Gaza side, prices of food dropped tremendously in that area. First of all, did you see those? Are you aware of such reports? And also, does that indicate that the problem could be inside, the problem of food distribution could be inside Gaza as opposed to outside?
I had not seen those reports. The problem of food distribution is not enough food is getting in. And I think we've talked about the many challenges to food distribution, and those have not changed.
Yet there are, the Israelis at least say that a lot of food is getting in, but is not being distributed as it goes into Gaza.
Well, Benny, I think we've talked at length about this, that there are quite a number of trucks that make it through the crossing at Kerem Shalom, not enough for as far as we're concerned, but that there are tremendous challenges to distributing the aid inside, whether it's the lack of security, the lack of cooperation with the Israeli authorities, the lack of insufficient number of trucks, not enough fuel. The challenges and the obstacles have been unchanged. Volodymyr and then Michelle.
Thank you, Stefan. While Russia claims that it's being undermined by some external forces, it itself is regularly shelling peaceful Ukrainian cities. A few hours ago, Kharkiv was attacked again. A school and residential buildings were destroyed, and there are dead and wounded. Do you have any concerns on this issue?
We have continued to call out and condemn when civilian infrastructure are hit. We've continued to call for an end to this conflict, to the war in Ukraine, in line with General Assembly resolutions and Ukraine's territorial integrity. Michelle.
Just to follow up on the issue of aid into Gaza, do you have any figures on how many deliveries, convoys, however you want to specify, have gone in through that other crossing that was open? I think they call it the 96th gate, the fence road.
The fence road, no, but I can try to get you some numbers. Yvonne.
Thank you. When the Secretary General was in the region, who did he speak to who has the most influence over the parties that he thought could bring some pressure to bear on those fighting? Because you said in response to Edie's question, that it's imperative for the people who have influence over the fighting parties to do something. So who did he speak to when he was there? Who would fulfill that description?
He has been, he and his colleagues have been in touch with the Americans, with the Qataris, with the Egyptians, with the Jordanians, and hosts of other people. All right. I don't see any other questions, and we will let you know when. Oh, sorry, Abdelhamid. I do see Abdelhamid. So go ahead, Abdelhamid.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Stefan. I have two questions. You just mentioned that Mr. Lazzarini said that the German funding of 40 million, I think, will go to Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and the West Bank. And is the Gaza excluded from this contribution?
I think
that
you
UNRWA cannot spend money in Gaza?
My understanding is that the German contribution is to UNRWA's programs in those areas.
But not Gaza. That I just want to be clear.
That's my understanding, but you should speak to the German authorities.
Okay. My second question. Now, Israel did not give any attention to the Security Council resolution, did not pay attention to the ICJ provisional measures. They did not heed any of the UN appeals. So what else the UN can do to oblige this state that treats itself above international law? And it's very obvious that it is behaving above international law.
I don't know which UN you're referring to. As far as the Secretary General, he has renewed.
Yes.
He's renewed his.
Again.
I think the Secretary General authority is clear in the charter, and he has been very clear in his calls on all parties, including Israel, to implement the resolution. Madame.
Sorry, just one quick one before you go. Haiti, any updates? Has the Secretary General spoken with Prime Minister Henry or anyone high up?
No major updates.
And
Haiti.
on about 2 weeks ago, WFP said they would run out of money for the hot meals in about 2 weeks. So I just wanted to check where we're at
check
on
with
that.
them if,
okay, thank you.
Benny.
Just to follow up on that question on the Security Council resolution, the Americans insist that that Security Council resolution is non-binding. What is your understanding?
My understanding, and you will be surprised that even when I'm on leave, I read the transcript of this briefing, and I think Fahan and your colleague from China Central Television had a long exchange to which I cannot bring anything that may be of use to you.
I'm sorry, but
That's okay.
My inability to follow it as closely as you do.
Well, listen, this is why you're there, and I'm here. Yes, Deji.
Yes.
That's on. I can hear you. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's on. So the China Central Television guy has some other questions today. I remember last year we heard a lot about the Yemen ship, the oil tanker. It's supposed to transfer or at least make an agreement last December, right? So what's the status of that crude oil, the oil ship now?
There's been no update as far as
So
the
it's still
situation.
staying in there.
Yeah.
Would that be a risk because we know what's happening in the Red Sea?
Yes. Okay. Thank you.